Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Ask Hugo number 8.
Number 8, the Ocho!
Yes, that is dodgeball reference.
Yep.
So you asked me questions in the comments of the last video, and in this video I will answer those questions because that is the premise of the show. So, Jake, why don't you go ahead and read me the first question.
Okay, the first one is in context of last Asked Hugo. If you'll remember, Hugo was asked about his political views. He used a buzzword. What was that buzzword?
Personal liberties, or something like that.
Okay, so, overwhelmingly, he had questions that basically boil down to this. Insainbassist asks? Not really. He just kind of states it. You sound like a libertarian.
I wanted to address this in this episode to clear this up just because I actually consider myself fairly anti-libertarian in my views.
Yeah.
And I wanted to explain why here, and I'll explain the similarities and the differences I have with the libertarian view.
Okay.
Firstly, I did in my previous video say I think people should have personal liberties and have the freedom to do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anyone. Now, when I say that, in my own head, I was thinking a broader scope than I think I expressed. When I say not hurting anyone, I don't just mean you can't go and murder people. I mean, like, if the government says you should be using compact fluorescent light bulbs because it's better for society, they should be allowed to tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean in the sense that you should be able to do what you want within reason as long as it's not hurting you or other people or societies. Or not even you. I think if you want to do stupid shit to yourself,
I think also the infrastructure of the country is in that.
So I didn't mean just like anything you want, no regulations. No, I think regulations play an important role in a government and in a society as a whole. I just mean, I don't think you should be stopped from doing things like gay marriage. That's what I meant when I said you shouldn't. You should be allowed to do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone. I think the government can tell you to stop doing things if they're detrimental to the society as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I would further go on to say, I think that regulations on companies and corporations, those are important because they protect consumers, because I do think that capitalism is an important part of a society, but I don't think unbridled, just do whatever you want capitalism is a good idea, because I think at the end of the day, the human want to enrich oneself can be a detriment to others, and I think that's something you need to kind of have checks and balances on. And this is something that I've talked to libertarians about, and they completely disagree. They have a mind that says human beings, they'll be in the best interests of everyone. If everyone just serves their own interests, it'll all work out.
That's not.
I completely disagree with that.
That's ridiculous. Historically speaking, never worked. Yeah. Not one time.
So I do think people have personal rights. I hate that even sounds like a libertarian buzzword, because no, you do. I think people have rights.
Absolutely, but it's a checks and balances on your freedoms. Like, I have the freedom to drive a car. I don't have the freedom to speed because that endangers other people. It's stuff like that libertarians don't want.
So
seatbelt laws are a really good example of stuff they argue about.
So I definitely wouldn't consider myself a libertarian, because I definitely think government serves a very important role, and I think power by the government applied in the right places can be very beneficial to society as a whole. I just wanted to put out there, not a libertarian. Not a libertarian. I'm progressive in my policies, and I do think that government serves an important role in regulating society.
Nailed it. Alastar Dragon asks, question: are you bothered when your friends or family have belief? And then he goes on to explain that a lot of his friends have varying beliefs, including astrology, spirit, reincarnation, magic, stuff like that, and that he often will end up in a debate because it bothers him. And he asks, how do you deal with that?
Sometimes, friends not as much, but there are two people who it bothers me in my family who are religious. First of all, not my dad, because I don't care, and I don't think he's even really that religious. I think he's religious because he thinks he should be, because he's
a Republican.
He's very on the line, like, society thinks I should be this way, therefore I'm this way. And I think that's why he's religious. My mom, on the other hand, that actually makes me angry a lot of the time that she's religious.
Those are the best discussions to overhear, by the way.
Because she's intelligent enough where if she objectively heard this later in life, I know she would see how ridiculous the things she say are, but she was taught it at such a young age, it's just part of her personality now, and she can't break away from it. She likes to tell me the story, whenever we bring this up, of when she was 8 years old and was saved, air quotes, and she's like, I was so sure, and I made that decision myself, and I always like to point out, well, you were 8, 8-year-olds can't consent to anything, so that's not really a fair assessment of the situation. But
for the record, she's a pretty progressive Christian.
Yo, no, she is. She definitely is. I'm just saying it just bothers me that she believes in superstitious things. Absolutely. The second one is my aunt, who's actually college educated. Yep. Like she's a doctor, she's a psychiatrist, not a medical doctor, but very intelligent person, generally pretty progressive, even more religious, I would argue, than my mom.
Oh yeah.
I gave her, for instance, a book on atheism. I've given her 2 now, but the first one I gave her, she even said to me, I feel weird for reading this because I'm afraid, like, God's gonna get mad. And I'm just like, that's so messed up that you can't even take in new information without
feeling guilt.
In fairness, that one was the God delusion, whereas I enjoy reading that book. That probably wasn't the best first book to give her on that, because I like Richard Dawkins, but he can come off as a condescending asshole sometimes.
I don't think I think he actually is a condescending asshole. I love the biology and the breakdown of tropes and the motif that he goes through in that.
Oh yeah, I enjoy the book. I just see how someone who's firmly in their religion would see him as just an asshole instead of seeing the positive things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, that bothers me, and we can get into arguments over it. My aunt, it's better. My aunt and I have good discussions. Me and my mom, though, it's usually just ends up in an argument.
Those are stupid. They're fun, though. They are fun to spectate.
Anyway, next question.
Parker YM asks, "Hello, Hugo. I want to ask, what would be the best way to deal with a Christian parent? I'm a Buddhist, and I respect my mom's beliefs, but every once in a while we clash, and it's starting to get overwhelmingly so. I am currently 18, but I do not have the financial ability to move out yet."
As I said in the last one, I have arguments with my mom about it, though it's never like... Only once has it ever gotten, like, really vicious argument. We tend to have, like, we can have a discussion about it.
You don't live
usually.
There, so it's probably better.
What I would say to you is, if you think it's honestly going to be a problem, and, like, she would get so angry she'd, like, cut you off or something, I'd say don't bring it up, because, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you can rest on you can rest on your laurels all you want, but if you get kicked out, you're fucked either way. So, I'd say just don't bring it up if that's an issue. But if you don't think that's an issue at all, and you just it's a relationship thing, I just make sure when you're having the discussions to try and have a discussion. Don't raise your voice. Make sure you're having a very understanding attitude. Don't act condescending. Yeah. I'm not saying you necessarily do now. I know a lot of atheists, especially younger ones who act like that, and it's off-putting. But
that's my number one critique and like part of advice to young, usually teenage atheists. Usually they're in high school. Be kind, you, and sincere. Don't start just repeating, TJ and Cult of Dusty because they're firebrand.
Yeah.
Be like, your parents love you and they're legit worried about your well-being and think that hell is a real thing. It's delicate.
Yeah. So I just try and have either don't have the conversation, try and avoid it if you can, or if you do have the conversation, try and treat it very, very casually. Don't make a big deal out of it. If she has questions, answer them to the best of your ability, and hope that she does the same for you if you ask her questions. But that's a tough one. Just try not to get too into it and have it end badly.
Live 627 asks, "How did you shake your fear of hell?" And this is specifically about something about we talked about last episode.
Last episode we talked about when I became an atheist and stuff, and it involved hell. So how did I shake the fear of hell? That's interesting, because when I was very, very young, like when I was like 5 and I became a Christian, I was like, because again, I was like 5, I was very afraid of hell, because I was taught in school how horrible it was, obviously, as they do in Christian schools. Not all of them necessarily, but the one I was in. And I was so afraid I got, quote, saved 3 different times just because I was afraid it didn't stick. Which sounds ridiculous now, but I was genuinely just that afraid. I was like, I don't want to go to hell. And I think as I got older anyway, even as a Christian, I stopped thinking about hell as much just because I didn't assume it was a place I was going. I was very self-centered about it. I was like, I'm not going there, so I don't care. I didn't consider the moral implications of it at all, if that makes sense. Yeah. And I didn't think about how objectively terrible the concept is. And then when I started moving away from religion, I started thinking about it a little bit, but as my religiosity lowered, so did my fear of hell along with it, because if I don't think the religion is true, I don't think hell is true either. And even after that, I had pretty much no fear of it for a long time, and I didn't even think about it. But then, as years passed and I continued to be non-religious and thought about it, this was even before the show, I think you look at it and you think, well, what if you're wrong? Because I think it's always good to think, well, what if you're wrong?
Absolutely.
And at that point, when I looked back on the idea of hell and thought, well, what if I am wrong? What if, for some reason, Christianity was true and I'm just completely, for whatever reason, not seeing the evidence and I get sent to hell? Mm-hmm. I think I still looked at it and said, that's a pretty fucked up system you have, where if you hold a genuine belief and think, I don't think this is true, and you're being completely honest with yourself and what you understand, and you get punished for that, I think that's wrong. So, at the end of the day, I think I just decided, even if it were true, and I didn't think it was true, it was more theoretical, just in the sense that I wouldn't want to believe something out of fear anyway. That's a stupid thing to do. You literally can't believe something just because you're afraid of something. That's not how belief works. And there was no point where I was just petrified by the fear of it and, had my belief based on it. But I would say the realization of how messed up that system is, and even if it were true, it wouldn't really be my fault.
Yeah.
I'd consider that what would help.
Niz 5000, which sounds like a futuristic sex toy, asks, it would be great to hear how Hugo was able to come to grips with the notion of our inevitable non-existence. So this kind of bleeds back from the last question. How do you deal with knowing that when you die, that's it?
I kind of go by what Mark Twain wrote about the subject, and that's the fact that, I was non-existent for billions of years before I existed, and it didn't bother me, so why should it bother me after the fact? I'm just happy that I have the chance to be alive right now. The fact that I can even say I exist and I have self-awareness, I think that's really cool, and I try and use the time that I have to the fullest. I can't say I'm not upset to a certain extent by the fact that I'm gonna die, but I'm at peace with it. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen to everyone. That's okay, and I'll try and prolong my life as long as I can. I hope it goes on for quite a while, but at the end of the day, it's an inevitability, and I don't think it's healthy to get hung up on things like that. I would say that, you have the rare opportunity to live your life and have no delusions about the fact that one day it will end, and you have a finite amount of time, so you are able to live it however you want, and say, at the end of it, be able to say, I either lived it to my fullest or didn't, and either way, it was on me.
The Anti-Paradox asks, Hugo, what is your internal and or external reaction when a theist tells you that they will pray for you, in any context? Do you view it as sanctimonious or arrogant, or are you sometimes just grateful for the thought? And then he gave examples like, like when you're sick, or when you're in bereavement, or just when you're an asshole.
If I think it's genuine, if I'm sick and they're like, I'll pray for you, and I think it's being a genuine, I think that's nice. I mean, at the end of the day, their intent is good. That's just a nicety. And I don't even think when people say that, I'm not a Christian, so I don't know. Do they literally pray for you? I don't know.
I don't. Some people probably do literally take note of their prayers, go home, do it, and say Hail Marys or some shit, whatever they do.
I assume sometimes it's probably just a figure of speech, though. You're in my thoughts, basically. Yeah. If it's a genuinely they're just being nice, and then that's great. I mean, it's the thought that counts as far as that goes. It's not an opportunity to be like, no, fuck you.
Prayer doesn't do anything, motherfucker.
That's stupid. Again, that's the kind of thing I would do when I was first an atheist and an asshole. Don't do that shit.
Yeah, that kind of shit pisses me off when natural disasters happen and people are like, pray for Haiti. And people are like, fucking that doesn't do anything, send your money. Well, obviously, send your money. Yes, of course, it does help. But thinking of it is a good thing, too, just by, you'll talk about it and, I don't know, just...
If that does happen, by the way, instead of saying, fuck you, prayer doesn't work, give them money. Say something along the lines of, oh, that's great, I know if you text this number or something, you can donate money. You can bring up the money thing, too. Right. But don't be a jerk.
Yeah, because then they're not going to just because people are fickle that way.
And there's a time and a place for theological discussions.
Oh, absolutely.
And, if someone's not up for it and you don't think they are, don't bring it up, because then you just add to the whole atheists are assholes trope, and that's not cool. But on the other side of things, if someone's doing it in a condescending manner, like you're having a discussion about religion, and they just ended abruptly well, I'll pray for you.
Yeah. Fuck them.
It used to make me mad, now it doesn't, because it's just so common. I'm like, yeah, well, there's that again. At this point, I don't normally say anything, though. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
To me, that tells me I probably had the upper hand, just because
Probably.
at this point I try and have pretty rational, level-headed conversations.
I think you do a
I don't
very
get
good
mad.
job.
So if that's how they choose to end it, they basically hit the abort conversation button, and that's on them.
Eddie Bird questions Hugo. So can we talk about holidays? Well, sure.
Yeah.
How do you navigate a religiously loaded occasion like Christmas or Easter, especially since even Christians rarely approach it as an actual sacred day?
This is interesting, because last year and the year before, I've had the same argument with my dad. Whenever I go back there for Christmas, they're always like, a couple months leading up to Christmas, he'll be like, "You're not going to celebrate Christmas this year." I'm like, "Why?" And I know where it's going. He goes, You're an atheist anyway.
Yeah.
And then we have this whole conversation where I'm like, you don't celebrate it as a Christian holiday anyway. They don't do anything
Doesn't
religious.
he barbecue?
I mean, it's winter, so he can't, but he makes food and stuff. He's not religious at all. He hasn't gone to church in probably 15 years. It's not like he's just sticking it to me because I'm an atheist, basically. Yeah. My dad's kind of a dick sometimes when it comes to that kind of thing.
Goddamn, can he cook a food, though?
Yeah.
Just any food.
Yeah. But we always end up having Christmas anyway. It's just he likes to bring it up, and then we have an argument about it. Basically, I'd just say to the person, you don't really celebrate it that way anyway. And some people like to bring up, like, it's not a Christian holiday anyway, it's pagan. Which, yeah, to an extent it's true, but I mean, you gotta
propagated by Christianity.
Yeah, you gotta understand that, especially in America in the past, it has strong religious connotations. Don't pretend it doesn't. It's just that I think now we're in a transitional period where it's really becoming less and less about the religion.
I mean, it's entirely commercialized.
Yeah, and I think just beyond that, I think socially the mentality for Christmas has gone less and less Jesus and more family and friends and getting together and enjoying company. Yeah. It's shifting to that. I think it's going to continue to do that in the future. So.
And for the record, I fucking love Christmas.
Yeah, me too.
I love everything about it, unless I'm working in sales and I have to listen to the same Christmas music over and over. Yeah. But I like getting gifts for people is like one of my favorite things in the whole world. Yeah. And I'm just a dork, but I mean it's awesome. Easter sucks. Easter's boring.
I don't really like Easter.
If my grandma or something makes food, it's like, okay, cool, but
Easter's like Diet Coke Christmas.
Oh no, it's Diet Right Christmas. Yeah. It's like remember Jesus? Yeah. Here's a bunny.
I mean, I'm always glad for like time off or whatever, but yeah. Anyway, did that answer your question? I don't know. I don't care.
Last question. Pasta J asks Hugo. I'm not sure if you've answered this already, but who is your favorite Star Trek captain? And who is your least favorite? And which Trek series is your favorite and least favorite?
Okay. I don't know if we've discussed this before, but we haven't asked Hugo.
Probably briefly.
Favorite is tough. I mean, it always comes down to the classic dilemma.
Kirk v. Picard.
Yeah.
Have to.
And I think they tie, and that's a cop-out, but I'll explain why. Kirk is the captain who would go down with the away team, and he'd solve the problem with his fists and maybe with his cunning. He's the card player. He comes up with the unconventional means to solve the problem. He is the Kobayashi Maru captain. Picard, on the other hand, he's the chess player. He knows where all the pieces lie, and he's a diplomat, and he understands the pieces he needs to move to win the scenario. He doesn't, generally speaking, I mean, they both do some of the other's thing every once in a while, but Picard is definitely the calculating diplomat who knows how a captain is supposed to behave. He doesn't usually go down on the away team for adventure missions. It's usually diplomatic in nature.
Yeah.
But when he needs to, he gives a speech like no one else. He solves problems with his words, where Kirk would solve it with a nice hammer punch in the right place.
Can you imagine if Q and Kirk ever had a conversation?
Oh, man.
It would end in copious hammer punches.
Yes, it would. Yeah, I think they're tied. And if I really had to pick, I'd say I probably like Picard better, just because at the end of the day, obviously he's a better actor.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously it's a better written character. But man, Kirk has a charm to him.
And I'd say if you fold in new movies Kirk, it's an even closer one, because I consider them the same character, just written better. You know what I mean? So he still has all the personality characteristics.
I think actually Chris Pine Kirk loses a lot of the charm.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean,
he comes. I don't know.
I think
maybe it's his deep blue eyes that they stun me.
Because when I see him, and again, it's because he's a younger Kirk. I think I see a younger person who doesn't quite have their niche yet. They don't know their role. But when Shatner's playing Kirk, he's super confident all the time, and he always knows he's going to get out of a situation.
That's fair.
Pine plays it more like a real person, but Kirk is Kirk. He is who he is. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, I can't say I don't like the new Star Treks. I think they're pretty good, actually, for what they are, but I think it loses some of the charm of the original series actors. Now, as to my least favorite captain, tough. I'm going to have to say...
Deep Space Nine. That's my least favorite everything.
I don't know, because, I mean...
You can't pick Scott Bakula.
Why not? Why can't I pick...
Because it's Scott Bakula!
I gotta pick Scott Bakula. That series should have ended with him leaping out of that, and then him being to Al like, oh, that was weird. I mean, that's also my least favorite series, I'll say, because that could have been really good, and I don't think it turned out that well, which is unfortunate. My favorite series though is Star Trek: The Next Generation for sure. So
definitely,
I think that's the best episodes, the best character dynamic, the best writing,
and Data. I
love Data's whole story arc. If we're talking about the movies, though, the original series had far better movies, in my opinion.
First Contact was pretty good.
I guess that one's okay. I'm not saying like if you take a
God, we're nerds.
If you take if you take like Search for Spock v First Contact, of course First Contact wins. Yeah. But I think taking the average of the movies, I think the old ones win.
The old ones are really good movies.
Minus the first one, because that one shouldn't even count as a Star Trek movie. V'ger. Goddamn guy from Seventh Heavens in the movie. You know, he just...
he touched kids.
Yeah, messed up.
Oh, okay. That was a high note.
He shouldn't have merged with V'ger. Weird stuff happened. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That's enough for this episode. This one's a longer one.
It'll cut down.
So... Thanks, everyone. If you want, you can ask me questions in the comments. They can pertain to questions in the episode, things we never talked about before.
We're starting to be better with the tweeting thing. I actually considered 2 of them, but they didn't make the cut, but they were good, mostly because they were very deep questions. One person asked me about free will. I can't remember your @ but it was a good question, but goddamn, that's a deep question.
Yeah. So, you can follow us on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
Or you can follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded.
You can try and ask me questions on there, but man, they get buried just
if you ask me,
works.
I'm on there a lot, and I usually tell Hugo about them, but do it closer to a Friday.
Yeah. Because
I'll tend to forget, and I'm pretty busy during the week, so.
So, until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this has been Ask Hugo, the Ocho.